ETA projects. And this is Enrique Orozco. I'll get it right eventually. But anyway, he is the outreach coordinator for ETA projects. And he works in Bolivia. I'm stationed most of the time in the United States. But we're really happy to be a part of the LASA Dialogues this year. And we appreciate this forum from LASA to be able to share with you an opportunity that we think is a great opportunity for students and for professors and universities to engage in Bolivia. I'm going to give you a bit of history from ETA projects first, just to start out, so you can understand where we're coming from, what's how we started, and that'll give you the background of where we're at today and how we can have the opportunity to engage with you. And ETA projects began in 2003 when Etta Turner, who was a Rotary International Exchange student, she died. She was here. She was assigned to Bolivia as her country. And just 3 months into her stay, she died in a tragic bus accident. However, she had already, as a 16-year-old, kind of made her impression on the country here and the people around her. And she had a great passion for people. And so when she died, the local Rotary Club and the school where she went to school asked to name a comedor, or a dining hall for malnourished children, after her. When that happened, ETA projects came into existence at that point to help with that. And in 2003, just 6 months after she died, ETA projects and our partners began to feed 100 malnourished inner city children every day. And we trained their moms in job skills and money management. So it was a dual program. In 2005, we started a second program in a more kind of peri-urban area of Bolivia, and began working with the children and the moms there as well. By 2009, it was always our goal to be able to turn these projects over to someone else, to a Bolivian organization that wouldn't need our support. And so for very long. And so we felt very successful that we began in 2003. By 2009, a local women's organization took this both these projects on, and they're still going today. So we're very proud of that women-oriented kind of projects where we began and where we're still at today. In 2009, ETA projects moved into remote rural Bolivia and began working in water, sanitation, and healthcare. We work with community water systems, lots of different systems. We've done solar, we've done gravity fed, we've done just water filtration systems. So anyway, what we try to do, though, our favorite, is household distribution systems so that every home has access to water. But the core to all of our projects is education. And that core involves having a water committee. And that water committee consists of 5 people. And those 5 people are in charge of keeping that water system going for the eternity. And our only rule is that 2 women sit on that committee. And with 2 women on that committee, we find we raise the level of status of women in that community to become community leaders. Bolivia is a difficult country for women, and any little nudge seems to help. And again, the key is that they have access to water meters, just like everyone else in the world does. And they have a way of collecting money and keeping their water system sustainable. We also work in sanitation, which is another huge need throughout the world. And ETA projects, after much research and talking to the villages and villagers and preferences, settled on the ecological composting latrine, mainly because it is, we are in a high water table level area, and there's lots of flooding. So the ecological composting latrine sits above ground, and gives us plenty of space for flooding and to keep the water system of the community safe and to keep everything, all sanitation at a level that works perfectly. Our third portion of our program usually is part of a community health program. When we began working in rural Bolivia, we realized that so many people didn't have access to health care. And that's what communities were asking for. How can we have something closer? How can we have Tylenol in our community? How can we have penicillin in our community? And so EduProjects created a 2-year training program. We have a doctor on staff. And with that, we train 2 to 3 people in each community to be village health promoters. These are permanent people who stay within their community and are available to them after that. They maintain a health kit. It's a pretty intense program, and it's not for the lighthearted, let me tell you. So these women and sometimes men work very hard, but they're volunteers in their community. They get paid a little for their service, but not a lot. They're truly heroes within the community. So for 18 years, we've been working in Bolivia, and these are our accomplishments. We feel quite proud of our accomplishments as a small grassroots nonprofit organization. And so what we want to do now is kind of give you, you kind of have an overview of EduProjects at this point, but we'd love to give you kind of an overview of Bolivia and then how we mingle those two to enhance your education program.
So here's a map of Bolivia. As you can see, Bolivia is bordered by Peru, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. It is at the heart of South America. We have here marked our Community Transformation Center and our office in Montero. Both of these are located in the Santa Cruz area, right in the almost practically in the center of Bolivia. Our Community Transformation Center being on the edge of the Amboro Park, and our office being in Montero, a small town outside of Santa Cruz. So to give you some more context and to really share about the unique opportunities that are found in Bolivia, I wanted to share some history about the country. So Bolivia, in pre-Columbian times, was comprised of several indigenous tribes, split between the Andean regions and the lowlands on the east. The central Andean area was ruled by Aymara kingdoms, and these areas eventually became a part of the Incan Empire as it spread eastward and southward from Peru. With the arrival of the Spanish, and the onset of the age of conquest and colonization, this time left a lot of scars on Bolivia and has really cemented its history as one of being of different race relations and dynamics, social stratification, and an economy that's been really focused on resource extraction. A lot of these trends continued even into independence. So the white and mestizo classes that were upheld by the Spanish colonialism remained in power even under the new government, and the majority indigenous population was practically had virtually no power, were not even considered citizens, even under the new Bolivian government. Over the 19th century, a series of military defeats saw Bolivia losing much of its, over half of its territory to its neighboring countries. And this resulted in, a lot of lack of faith in the ruling classes. Going into the 20th century, we really see a lot of wealth being gained in the hands of very few. And that increased stratification kind of came to a head in the 1950s with the Bolivian National Revolution, one of the biggest people's movements and popular movements of Latin America. In that revolution, Bolivia enacted universal suffrage, practically unheard of at the time, giving its indigenous populations and everyone, regardless of whether they could read or write, the right to vote. It also enacted a series of agrarian reforms to try to bring land and territory into the hands of everyday people. Unfortunately, this political instability did continue for a while, and between the 50s and the 80s, a period of 30 years, you see over almost 25 different dictators, 8 coups d'etats, just a lot of political back and forth, with really no single entity being able to hold on power for long. Um, However, Bolivia in the modern age has seen some political stability. After in the early 2000s, the government tried to enact some privatization of gas and water, which set off mass protests throughout the whole country. And this show of force from the people really did expressed that Bolivia's majority working class and majority indigenous population have gained a lot of political power, and they expressed this in 2006 by when Bolivia elected its first indigenous president. That has brought in a number of changes. Bolivia has been established as a plurinational state. It currently recognizes 36 different peoples and languages as being the official languages of Bolivia, including Quechua and Aymara, which are spoken by almost a quarter of the population. The 2012 national census estimated that over 41% of Bolivians over the age of 15 are of indigenous origin. Um, and while the poverty rate has dropped from 59.9% in 2006 to 36.4% in 2018, it still does remain the second poorest nation in South America. And economic inequality is, while not at an all-time low, still one of the biggest issues facing Bolivia, as it has a Gini index of 42 in 2018. Geographically, it is one of the 15 mega diverse countries. With the other 14 countries, it makes up between 70 and 80% of the planet's diversity of fauna and wildlife. And it's noted as having established a legal status, and in its constitution has placed the rights of the Mother Earth as being sacred. However, it still is an economy that depends on the extraction of resources, going from silver under the Spanish age to tin in the 20th century, to now Bolivia has been identified as being possibly one of the countries with the largest lithium deposits in the world. So it's a country that's still figuring out who she is, who she wants to develop into in the future. So there's a lot of opportunities here for institutions and researchers to come and figure out, what are the different forces that have been affecting Latin America, and what are the forces that'll be shaping its future.
So thanks, Enrique. That was a great synopsis of of a lot of history. But so after ETA Projects was at about 15 years here, we got to thinking, what can we do? What do we expand to other countries? What do we do as an organization to create a bigger opportunity for development in this country? And what we came upon, we think, was a very unique idea. We decided to create a community transformation center. One of those reasons was to keep all of our projects, everyone who we've ever worked with in all of these years, to have the opportunity to stay fresh, motivated. So we found a place, 96 acres next to the Amborro National Park. And we created a community transformation center. And in that center, every person we've ever worked with is frequently invited to refresh their skills. If they're health promoters, they may come back and do a new course on chronic illness, kidney disease, diabetes. They may come back and work with 7 other community health promoters, uh, communities, and really talk about what works, what doesn't work. We work with water committees because water committee members change, but who trains those water committee members? And so we work, they know that we're there and they can bring their water committees, new members to us, and we can teach them, but we can also teach new techniques. And they know that we're there for them for the long haul. With sanitation promoters, they just know that we're there to work on them. We're going to have a sanitation promoter training coming up here in the next couple of days. But more than that, how did we expand? How do we help development in Bolivia to become even better? And that is the inclusion of universities, the inclusion of other organizations and institutions that work in development, and they too have access to the Community Transformation Center. And through this design, we can help community members work with universities, and universities work with community members, solve problems, do research, answer questions, be together in one space to begin to help young people, students, develop uh, good skills, good understanding of what development is. And so that's why we created the Community Transformation Center. And that's why we're presenting here at LASA, is really to make sure that you guys have the opportunity to use this facility and that the Bolivian people have the opportunity to have access to you.
So right now we want to share a virtual tour for you all of the Community Transformation Center. So we're going to show a quick video that we were able to prepare. Should be coming up on the screen. Okay. All right. While we do wait for this video, we wanted to just to highlight some of the amenities about this Community Transformation Center. So our property sits on, well, you'll see in just a moment, it sits right on the edge of the Amboto National Park. So we enjoy I want to say like a lush, beautiful oasis, a well-needed escape from the hustle and bustle of the cities. Um, it's a beautiful area with I want to say like eight cabins.
Yeah, we have 8 cabins and can house 36 people at a time. And we also have a swimming pool. You'll see in the video. It's quite it's a lovely facility, but it gets people out of the classroom and thinking differently. So I think it's up now. Maybe it's not. We can keep talking about it. This morning, every day there's monkeys, all kinds of animals, and that are just a part of our lives there. Insects, the bats. You'll love the bats, and so we have lots of mammals. Uh, and if you're a birder, oh my gosh, the birding life is pretty spectacular at this site. Something's not working on our thing. We're going to try something different. Is it going to work this time?
Just some technical difficulties.
Okay, Vanessa's saying maybe it's not. I don't know. Worked when we tried it earlier.
Okay, but we'll go back to our presentation and just keep going.
Yeah, and if it becomes available to us, we'll gladly place it up because you're going to love it, and it gives you a great view of what's happening at the CTC. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, the CTC started in 2017, and we were very proud that we had several relationships with universities right away. One was Johns Hopkins University, who came in and was able to, they've been working on research in Chagas for several years here in Bolivia, trying to solve this problem. But they were working out of the city, trying to get into the rural areas. What we could offer them was access to rural communities where Chagas is the problem. And you see it much more in rural areas. So one thing that they did was brought all their research equipment to the Community Transformation Center. They set up their project. We connected them to community. They could go into the community and they could test whole communities for Chagas as they're doing their research. It was very exciting for us. And I think Johns Hopkins got a look at how what things look like in rural areas where they could do a full community scope of research. And they'll be back with us as soon as the doors open up, I think, and they're going to continue some work in Chagas. Another university that we've worked with quite a bit is University of Minnesota, the Humphrey School of Public Affairs, and I can tell you they've done some pretty remarkable things with us. Their first program was a girls empowerment program where they created, we actually embedded their students in a rural community. They went and lived there to learn what the mothers had to say, what the girls had to say about women and girls empowerment, and what were those dreams for those that the women had for their girls that they didn't have the opportunity to fulfill. And then they created a wonderful curriculum that lasted for 3 months, where girls came to the CTC. All of these adolescent girls came to the CTC, and they actually implemented the project during that time. And what you see here is a beautiful photo of one of their projects where the girls went out into the city and set up a fair in the middle of the plaza. And people came and asked them questions about women's empowerment, about women's rights in Bolivia, about HIV, about domestic violence. These girls became very bold and even did their own radio program. So what university students and professors are able to accomplish because of our connections to the rural communities is pretty astounding. And these girls will never be the same. The first one of them just went off to college. So we're very excited about that. Also, the University of Minnesota also has done a student conservation program with us. They created the curriculum, went into the communities, created the curriculum, and it's called Guardians of the Forest. Unfortunately, COVID happened and they weren't able to implement that. So that project's still sitting there waiting to be implemented. They've done some monitoring and evaluation programs for us on medicinal plants. Michigan Tech University has done an Engineers Without Borders project with us. We're still working with them on rural road construction or reconstruction. So those students are just getting a firsthand look at what it's like to not work on paved roads, but to work on roads that people's lives depend on. And Dayton University, we're working with them on some model systems, some engineering model systems. They worked with us with a gray water irrigation system on site because the CTC prides itself in creating model systems that allow community members to come in and view and touch and play with and know exactly what kind of system they're thinking about or could be possible in their communities. So those are some examples of what we've done up until the present. Again, we've only had 3 years, but we feel like we've been pretty successful, and we can connect any professor or university with our contacts in those universities for reference if needed. But I think, Enrique, let's talk about what you and I have envisioned for the future and what might be possible for the viewers of this LASA dialogue?
Yeah, so I'm afraid we've lost the slideshow right now, so we'll just have to continue our conversation verbally. But we have brainstormed and talked about a few different themes and subjects that we're able to bring institutions, universities, individual researchers, individual students. Bolivia sits at the heart of many of these issues, and our community members are affected by these every single day. So we've identified a few buckets where we think that people are really able to make a contribution and have a really strong impact through their work, and see these things up close. So in terms of the politics of Bolivia, I think it's one of the unique countries where everyone feels that they have a voice, and Bolivian people are not afraid to exercise it. It is not uncommon to see protests about everything and anything, because the Bolivian people do feel strong, and they feel confident about letting the government know what their vision is, what their goals are for the future, and how they can be a part of it. So we've had close ties with a lot of the different government agencies in our area to get some of our projects up and running, and we've had to work hand in hand with them to get our work done. We've maintained really good ties with the administrations past and present. So potential political research or immersion could include talking with community organizers, talking with local leaders, talking with municipal governments and addressing those different issues, and hearing from different officials and different council people from the opposite sides of the table, as it were.
Yeah, that would be an exciting project and an exciting classroom, roundtable, really, for a university. Another area that we frequently talk about is gender equity and women's rights in Bolivia, and we certainly work on that in all of our projects. All of them employ some type of gender equity program, and but Bolivia has such an interesting history. I mean, if you go look at the government, it really is made up of more women. And that began long ago, where there was an actual effort put forward to put more women into leadership roles in government. And although that happened, unfortunately, in 2012, they had to enact a law 243, which protected women who were part of government from harassment and political violence. So there's a give and take, but it's certainly an area that is exciting to read about, look at, and to look at where it started and where we are now and how far we've come. In 2013, Bolivia passed a hugely progressive law to protect women's right to a life free of violence. And even though we say that, and I can tell you today that Bolivia has the highest rate of femicide and domestic violence in South America, but there is this law there, and slowly it's grabbing on and taking it. I can't tell you the number of women in all of our programs who we work with, who we share this law with, who there's a way to access this law and to get compliance. And it's certainly moving. The needle is moving. It may move slowly, but it's moving. So there's lots of gender equity issues. There's women's issues. These are just exciting topics, I think, that any university can look at and have a new angle on it.
Yeah, secondly, I mentioned that Bolivia has an indigenous population of at least 40% of the country. And ever since the new administration came in, or ever since the Evo Morales, the indigenous president, and his administration came in, progress has been made by leaps and bounds towards the indigenous rights and land rights of this majority population. The International Work Group for Indigenous Affairs estimates that 23 million hectares of collective property have been established under the status of community lands of origin, representing 21% of the country's total landmass. So that's almost a quarter of Bolivia's country is being collectively owned or collectively held by indigenous or by community owners. These laws have paved the way for 36 different indigenous autonomies to start the process for accessing self-government. We've worked with some of these indigenous leaders and organizers. The Bartolina Cisa's Confederacy of Indigenous Campesino Women have attended workshops at the Community Transformation Center. A researcher or institution looking to do more work with these indigenous movements or to hear what that looks like at a grassroots level would have many opportunities at the Community Transformation Center to share lived experiences with the members of these groups and to see how indigenous rights has intersected with women's rights, especially here in Bolivia.
Yeah, it's exciting to work with women here, I have to say. And the Bartolinas are some kick-ass women. Also, one of the other things we were thinking about was healthcare as it relates to the comparison between Western medicine and indigenous medicine. After beginning the community healthcare program, the health promoters program, you know, the one thing they kept asking us for is what's the alternative to Western medicine? Everybody pushes Western medicine on people. And so later we came up with the medicinal plant portion of that project. And it's been really exciting to put that into play. And I have to say I'm going to mention that and looking at those two systems work together, Bolivia again has made it's part of their health ministry that indigenous people have to have access to indigenous medicine because for so long Western medicine was pushed upon them. And so women would not go to healthcare centers. Well, indigenous people didn't want to go to clinics. Too many babies were born outside clinics, things like that. So as things have begun to change a little bit, but what we also know is that we can change within, and that's what the Bolivian culture is so used to, is being able to get down to the grassroots, get down to the community level, and grow from there. And so the health promoter program really allows for that to happen and for women to step into those leadership positions. I also want to mention that COVID-19, you know, it has had its toll on everyone within the world. But I think that we have, during our time here, during COVID, the health promoters, as in most countries, most of the epidemics are occurring in the city and people are dying in the cities and the hospitals are full. And all the health personnel was drawn from the rural areas into the cities. And that left the rural areas completely void of medical care. And these health promoters that we've trained and worked with, we were able to go back out with them, get them some PPE, be able to teach them how to treat symptoms. And unfortunately, then all the Western medicine was gone. And what did they rely on but the indigenous medicines at that time? And so these women and men became true heroes in their community. That would be just an incredible study to be able to look at. But I think COVID in this country has opens another door of work and study.
And finally, Bolivia, with such a wide landscape and such a varied biodiversity, has seen some of the firsthand effects of climate change immediately already. In 2009, the Chacaltaya Glacier disappeared off the face of the earth from global warming, resulting in a lot of people losing access to clean and steady water. In the last few years, the Amazonia, so our Chiquitania and Dunari areas have undergone out of control wildfires, some natural, some caused by individuals who needing a source of income, needing a way to provide for their families, have resorted to slash and burn agriculture to make an income. And just, you know, the more ever unpredictable weather trends have seen that in the last few years, the summer rains have just become so much more stronger and so much more destructive, and the flooding that is affecting these areas is out of control. As Penny was saying, that's been one of the solutions leading towards the eco-latrines, the baños ecológicos, is because they're one of the only things that can stand against that flooding and are able to have a sustainable, that are able to stay sustained. But by and large, you know, the effects of climate change and the effects that it's had on Bolivia has really been felt by the majority indigenous communities and the impoverished communities who are living in these rural areas, and you know, are most affected by water insecurity and are most affected by housing insecurity. And it's a balancing act in Bolivia between protecting her rich biodiversity, and respecting the rights that have been attributed to her in the Constitution, but and fighting against the climate change, which is affecting us right now. But it's such a resource rich nation. And some people suggest that the only way for it to get ahead and continue developing is to tap into these. One of the reasons why we chose the CTC in its current location is because of our 96 acres that we keep the majority of that wild. It's pristine rainforest, and it acts as an example to our community members, to our neighbors, to the folks that we invite to here, that the rainforest has a benefit in and of itself. And it is not merely land to be chopped down for wood or for cattle grazing, but that has been one of our biggest missions too, is how can we be a demonstration and help connect these folks to the land in a different way. So with our proximity to Amboro Park and our connections with a lot of the different environmental groups and the conservation groups in the area, you can see what that conversation looks like and see how the decisions made of that conversation are changing people's lives.
So yeah, the environmental element is just really exciting, and I'll look forward to putting forth the curriculum once schools are open again, that the University of Minnesota helped us put together. So as you know, I mean, there's just so many angles to Bolivia. Our connections are what we believe are an asset to the universities, to university students, to professors, to research. And we believe that we have a great deal to offer you. Also, just to top that off, what I would like to say is that the project has legal status in the United States and in Bolivia, so that, you know, universities can be assured that we have responsible leadership in both locations. And I think the exciting piece is that we can offer an immersion, a complete immersion, not just not in language, but as in culture and in history and in the environment. There's just an immersion that we can give that is so exciting to universities and with education and connecting community members to university students. Also, you know, these are completely customizable systems. These are completely customizable programs. It can be 7 days, it can be 4 days, it can be 3 months. We see students at we've had students for 6 months. So there's opportunity for a lot of diversity in the program. And we truly believe we have some real competitive pricing for study abroad. I think, we don't have the slides anymore, do we?
No, we don't have the slides, but you know, with a 7-day mock itinerary, with housing included, all meals provided and home cooked right at the Community Transformation Center.
By Marlene, she's good. She's really good.
And our enthusiastic team of volunteers, we're able to connect you with different presentations and connect you with local leaders, community organizers, community members from diverse locations, and it's at a base cost of about $60 per person per day. So these are all the different amenities that we're able to offer.
Yeah, and I think did we get to pop up the link at least to the video in the chat?
I've sent it out.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So that's gone out. Please take a look at that and see what you're missing and see what what kind of potential is there in a partnership with us, and then contact us and come see us. We promise we'll make a study abroad program that really is designed by you and can bring unique elements to the classroom, to study, to education.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
For your time. In the floating banner, there's our website as well as our contact information. So you can always reach out to those to get in touch with us, start a conversation, see our website, see our video, learn more about that, and always always feel free to reach out. We can get a conversation going on how we can get something started.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.